West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
Andrei Kozyrev was Russian foreign minister from 1991 to 1996 under President Yeltsin, the first person to serve in that role in that post-Soviet era. He's also been credited with developing Russia's foreign policy in that period, as we were just discussing tonight, after the fall of the Soviet Union and the wall. We should also note the current foreign minister, a name you've probably heard, Sergei Lavrov, served as his deputy. Kozyrev left the Russian government in 2000. That was the year Putin became president for the first time. And he has emerged as something of a critic of Putin and some of these measures. Mr. Minister, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
That statement you made, first reported by the New York Times, seems to combine the evidence that Russia's military is hitting problems with your insight or observation that those are exactly the kind of problems that may have been underreported internally to Putin. Can you expound on that a bit more and explain to us how you came to that view?
Well, it's any dictator or any authoritarian, they suffer from the same problem, that they surround themselves with good liquor, so to say, or yes men. And those yes men, they are afraid just to report. And I met with those circumstances when I was foreign minister, for instance, in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, or in many other places. And in the Soviet Union, it was like that. I served in the Soviet foreign ministry. I am a career diplomat. And that was exactly like that. Nobody reported the truth. So he probably believed that there is no Ukrainian nation and that he has overwhelming power, overwhelming army, which cannot be, because look at the situation in Russia and the Russian economy. Russian economy has been stagnated for the last 10 years, if not declining. And the corruption is overwhelming inside Russia. So how could the military be totally separate from that? There could not be a military like United States, in a corrupt state. So it's just nothing, not a rocket science to know that.
Yeah, you put it like that it's, you say not rocket science, a common phrase that if everything else is in decline, why would the military be an exception? And if crony capitalism and oligarchs and cronyism is how part of the economy and the society runs, why would the military be exempt from that? I want to play a little bit of Putin. This was in an older interview. This is before the invasion, but goes to the mindset that you may understand. This was with our own NBC colleague, Keir Simmons, where he tries to make the argument that really he has to respond to NATO, that Russia is constantly on defense, as he puts it. Take a look.
What was the point of expanding NATO to the east and bringing this infrastructure to our borders? And all of this before saying that we're the ones who have been acting aggressively? Why? On what basis? Did Russia, after the USSR collapsed, present any threat to the United States or European countries? We voluntarily withdrew our troops from Eastern Europe. And what did we get in response? We got in response infrastructure next to our borders. And now you're saying that we're threatening to somebody.
You're an expert at getting to the root of things, not taking it all at face value. Can you share with us your view from your time there? Does he in any way believe some of this stuff because he's closed off as you described? Or when you get to these international issues, is it still his version of propaganda, baiting, what in America they sometimes call trolling, and constantly making it out as if he must respond because of what the West is doing?
It's both. It's not or, but it's one and the other. It's his conviction, but it's conviction of convenience, because he needs a foreign enemy to justify in some way this disastrous economy in Russia, which is one of the richest countries. If you look at the mineral resources, oil, gas, gold, everything. And the population is educated and able to do complex jobs. So this disastrous results in Russian underdevelopment. That's something which needs an excuse. And that excuse they find in NATO. NATO never threatened a new Russia. NATO countries are eligible for Russian oligarchs and for Russian successful people, people who have some means to go. That's where they go. They don't go to Iran. They don't go to China, right. Even they go to America, right. To France, to NATO countries. So it's all a wrong conviction of convenience, and it's, of course, propaganda. And that makes a vicious circle. Propaganda comes to him back in reports of his acolytes, and then they reproduce it again as propaganda. And he is in an echo chamber. But what I want to say also, that I don't know why everybody is so fixated on Putin. It's like a spoiled child. Or today he is in good mood, tomorrow he is in bad mood, and what is his next caprice is. Forget it. It's just politics. It's just inter-government politics. And if NATO shows more strength, it's okay that there is a response, but don't hesitate to make more responses. He does not hesitate to punch Ukraine or to attack NATO verbally or whatever. So the same is on the other side. It's just ridiculous that everybody is looking, what if he will be offended, or what if he will be nervous?
Well, you're speaking to the impact he has, and you mentioned the propaganda. I've got a little bit of time left, but you say the propaganda can be a vicious loop for them. Was it not Bakunin? Was it not Bakunin who said, don't get high on your own supply? Or maybe somebody else. But that's how we've put it in the United States. My question to you before I lose you at 30 seconds is there anyone inside the Russian government who can even give him the bad news? I'm not talking about overthrowing him, but give him bad news to course correct? Or that's, in your view, out of line, not going to happen?
That is less possible than overthrow him. That's a Russian tradition. They fear to tell the boss the truth, but one day they might come with a weapon and escort him either to the grave or to retirement, like happened even in the Soviet Union. So it's rather they will escort him out than tell him the truth. That's the tradition.
Well, thank you for enlightening us on some of the traditions. The former Russian foreign minister and recent Putin critic, Andrei Kozyrov.
It is Thursday, the 10th of March of 2022, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English Bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef, and our daily special is Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays, a little bit of jambalaya, a little bit of spice in your life. Yeah, it's getting spicy. It's getting hot. Lavrov said when asked, is there a possibility of a nuclear war? And he looked at them with his cold, steely eyes and said, I don't think so. Which means, yeah, it's a distinct possibility. Because when Lavrov says something, he's lying. All right? Doesn't think so. He knows so. Don't trust that guy. Oh, here's another question I have. If Lavrov and Kislyak can do the Russian sword dance in the Oval Office with Trump, how come nobody from Soros's group has high-fived Joe at the Resolute desk? How come? All right. I guess both parties are not the same then, after all, are they? Our great vice president is in the theater now. Looks like getting some material and armaments to Poland and some of the other nations nearby. I suppose that could start World War III as we define it. And I guess that means, I don't know. What does that mean? Only if we are involved, then it raises to that? Well, I guess so. But we're trying to stave off that, because once that happens, yeah, it's not going to be good. It is just not. Now I'm hearing that we've gotten rid of all of our tactical nukes. I don't believe that. Are you kidding me? Jesus. You mean the nation that wouldn't get out of, like, well, we're not going to use chemical weapons in war treaties. You know, we're not signatories to that. We got rid of all of our tactical nukes. That's what we would like people to believe. And I think that's actually what is going on here, because I heard that. The reason that we're, laying back off of Vlad's threats of his nukes, which are tactical, is because we don't have any. We got rid of them because of the SALT treaty. Give me a break. Actually, there was only a number that we had to give up. We still have some. And some newer generations of them also. You can rest assured. You don't think all of those earthquakes were caused by fracking, do you? I don't know. Am I starting a conspiracy theory? Possibly. Maybe we'll call our group J, because that's the kind of ego I have. All right. Well, the kind of ego I have also has enough critical thinking skills that would I want me running the show? Would I want me teaching your kids? Sometimes decisions have to be made. And they were. Actually, the question wasn't so much would I want me teaching your kids, is really what the question was, do I really want to put up with a bunch of dimwit parents and even more dim-witted administrators who only have education degrees, by the way? Come on. If you're going to be in education, I think you need more than just an education degree. How about something in a subject? That's another pet peeve that probably I acquired from my dad. Academic he be. And that is, you ought to have a degree in whatever it is you're teaching. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. Now, parents that barely got out of high school think they can teach their kids the 3 R's. And that's about all it's going to be, and hardly that. Okay. If we want to turn out like Russia is right now with how many? 144 million brainwashed citizens for the most part. Oh, well, yeah, my kid just died in Ukraine, but it wasn't from any war or anything. We're not there. I mean, people see it right with their very eyes from their loved ones, and they're still denying it. And people are arguing in scientific circles whether brainwashing works. You got proof. We have proof. 73 million in the United States, at least, seem to have succumbed to the same origination of this brainwashing for a distinct purpose. Yep. Okay, well, poor Vlad. Now, when he reconstitutes his former Soviet Union, it's not going to be commie. It's not going to be socialist. It's going to be mob. It's going to be paying tribute to the mob boss. Mm-hmm. Except, don't any of these mob bosses know that, your time on this earth is really quite limited in the great scheme of things of how the cosmos works, okay? Not even a blink of an eye. So what kind of longevity of tribute do you think you're going to get? Do you think it's going to come to you in the, I don't know, whatever it is that the KGB thinks is the afterworld? Oh, I forgot. Vladimir Putin has adopted the Russian Orthodox belief system. Okay. I think it's just a convenient vehicle in which to get what he wants. But who knows? Maybe he's a devout Russian Orthodox guy. Russian patriarch there in Moscow said that the reason they had to invade Ukraine is because of, this liberal West, secular West. And there was really a great fear of gay parades. He came out and said, we don't want any gay parades around here. That's why we had to invade Ukraine. I don't know. I looked at old Metropolitan Ivan or whatever his nomenclature is. And as I specified on social media, I am a baptized Roman Catholic. And so they fear gay parades, and I'm thinking, I'm baptized as a Roman Catholic, and what do the Russian Orthodox Church, what does the Russian Orthodox Church call their procession to the altar? Jeez. Must be something very different. I thought that all sort of originated from the same sort of, and then splintered over time. Well, Metropolitan Ivan, I got to tell you, you don't have to fear gay parades. I think you probably ought to fear something a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more dangerous, like Petticoat Junction. Wait until you get that. You think you're dumbing down your population. Yeah, we have great practice at it here. Mm-hmm. Car 54, where are you? Even the Ghost and Mrs. Muir was, I don't know, keeping us from really acquiring the critical thinking skills that we need or should be required to have to sustain this representative democracy in this sea of turmoil. Mm-hmm. We got some catching up to do, I guess. So where I think our efforts should be put is making sure that more schools are built in rural areas, not less. And if you want to homeschool your kid, do it like we did when I was growing up. We were homeschooled. Every day we came home from school, we had more homework to do. And then the chores, too. Jeez. Kim Kardashian came out and said that during Women's Month, right? Women's History Month, that, that there would be more women entrepreneurs if women got up off their ass and worked. What? Okay. Easy for you to say, lady. Showing up at your boutique from Family Money at about 1 o'clock Yeah, you know all about working. Okay. So, a far-flung tangent, barely enunciated. It's still the morning, and I'm on my, at my minimum requirement of this caffeinated beverage. You do know that caffeine is a nutrient that our body lacks, and there is a minimum daily requirement. Yeah, just to achieve balance. And I haven't quite achieved the balance I am required to have in this time of turmoil. So we'll catch up. But did you know, I'm sure that you suspect, that we have a curated show for you today. Yes, we do. And there's so much news out there, and I could riff on and on and on, but maybe, just maybe, we should settle down and have a little bit of, I don't know, tranquil order. It's always nice instead of dealing with the chaos as it all comes in. But, you know, if you have a curated behavior, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'll just follow me, okay? If you have a curated behavior system, when surprises occur, you might be prepared. You just might. Well, with that stated, at the top, yeah, Putin will be overthrown before anyone gives him bad news about Russian setbacks in Ukraine, because that's how it works in Russia. And when that former foreign minister mentioned that, I was once again reminded of my academic advisor at Portland State way back in the day, Dmitry Dimitryshin, who was a Russian emigre from the former Soviet Union. And I got to tell you, in my day, I don't know what everybody is, why everybody is fearing about immigrants coming to America. About 99.99999% of all immigrants vote Republican. Like any convert, they always go for the most conservative extreme, and then they learn, like, oh man, I gotta modify this behavior. It might take a generation or two, but it happens. So maybe that's what the repugs are afraid of, the kids. So I was reminded of the same lessons that we had from Professor Dimitryshin about the Russian mindset. It is quite peculiar, prone to conspiracy theories and wild hair ideas about what is happening, which is a conspiracy theory. So, and his lesson, I should mention, is be wary when confronting that, because you need to factor in that mindset that is peculiar to that part of the Slavic world, just saying. According to Dimitryshin, and I don't know, there's some anecdotal evidence over the decades that proves his premise to be true. Lived experience, as they say. So when the Russian foreign minister said, look, there's a reason we got 144 million brainwashed people. This brainwashing has been going on for decades. One of the reasons that guy got out in 2000 as Putin was rising. I think he knew well aware who Putin was in Yeltsin's group, Putin being KGB. So, yeah, when you're living under, that sort of system, yeah, you tend to look over your shoulder quite often. And that's what they do. So, yeah, they'll have to like overthrow him rather than give him the bad news, because you don't give the boss any bad news. All right. Well, different way of doing business, I would say. Different. On the rest of the menu in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy as we begin on this fabulous Metro Shrimp and Grist Thursdays. 173 GOP lawmakers tried to send Congress home instead of voting on Ukraine. So I would be looking into the bank accounts of 173 GOP lawmakers and see how many rubles are not able to exchange at this moment? Yeah, let's find out. Over 27,000 mail ballots were rejected in the Texas primary, vastly surpassing the number of rejected ballots in all previous Texas elections combined. Wow. And in another reversal of a Trump administration policy, the Biden administration is restoring California's authority to set its own tailpipe pollution standards for automobiles and trucks. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where the Ukrainian government is preparing to move its sensitive data and servers abroad if Russia's invading forces push deeper into the country. And UNICEF reported more than 1 million children have fled Ukraine since the start of the Russian invasion 15 days ago. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is the chat room link, and the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. To the left of the chat room link across the page, near the bottom there at netrootsradio.com, is the link to our Patreon site. And if you could become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio, and if you could afford to send us what you might spend on, well, how about an espresso-type coffee drink? If you could send those funds to us once a month, that allows us to pool that money with what we pull out of our own wallets and pay our bills, fly under the radar, continue this powerhouse of resistance against not only the United States of America by dark forces arrayed against such, but also representative democracy worldwide. Those dark forces, and we know who they are, don't like it, and we know why. But thank you for your generosity. It's allowed us to fulfill our civic duties as the founders originally intended, and thank you very much for allowing us to do so. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that, and thank you, Tom. Follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam, and I'll tell you why. I post the show notes and links diary there, in which the real reportage is contained, and I post that about 10 minutes before showtime and then get that linked up on Twitter and other social media platforms. So I do that there at Justice Putnam on Twitter, because you could also follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, but I don't post there as often because, well, we'll get into that at another time. But anyway, you could follow the show at Cookbook West, and you can also, most importantly, pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, etc., 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 and the deep archives of the Netroots Radio Library, including, West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, can be found at the Internet Archive at archive.org. Alrighty, this first offering in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy comes our way by the American Independent by Emily Singer. 173 House Republicans yesterday, Wednesday, voted to send the entire chamber home rather than conduct important business, including whether to fund the government, provide billions in aid to war-torn Ukraine, or ban oil imports from Russia. How much NRA money did they get? And we know where the NRA got their money. House Democrats thwarted the GOP-led effort as 34 Republicans joined the Democratic majority to defeat the motion to adjourn. The motion, which Representative Jody Hice, Repug of Georgia, requested, was defeated by a 255 to 173 vote margin. The House's vote to set is set to vote on a set of critical legislation, including an omnibus bill that would fund the federal government before the current funding bill expires tomorrow at midnight, Friday. If a new funding bill is not passed by then, the government shuts down. Paul J. Weber and Acacia Coronado of the Associated Press bring us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. More than 27,000 mail ballots in Texas were flagged for rejection in the first test of new voting restrictions enacted across the U.S., jeopardizing votes cast by Democrats and Republicans alike and in counties big and small, according to an analysis by the Associated Press. It puts the rate of rejected mail ballots in Texas on track to significantly surpass previous elections. The preliminary figures reported by Texas counties after votes were counted in the state's March 1 primary is the fullest picture to date of how new election rules rushed into place by Republicans following the 2020 election made it harder for thousands of voters in both parties. Some will wind up not having their ballots count at all, and that was a feature, not a bug. Rejected mail ballots are relatively uncommon in a typical election, but the initial rejection rate among male voters in the Texas primary was roughly 17% across 120 counties, according to county-by-county figures obtained by the AP. Those counties accounted for the vast majority of the nearly 3 million voters in Texas's first-in-the-nation primary. Although the final number of discounted ballots will be lower, the early numbers suggest Texas's rejection rate will far exceed the 2020 general election, when federal data showed that less than 1% of mail ballots statewide were rejected. For now, the numbers do not represent how many Texas ballots were effectively thrown out. Voters had until Monday to fix rejected mail ballots, which in most cases meant providing identification that is now required under a sweeping law signed last fall by Republican Governor Greg Abbott. New requirements include listing an identification number, either a driver's license or a social security number, on the ballot's carrier envelope. That number must match the county records. You know, the one that was put on there when you were 21 and now you're 80. Okay, just saying. County election officials say they worked feverishly to contact those voters in time, in many cases successfully, and a full and final tally of rejected ballots in Texas is expected to come into focus in the coming days. What's coming into focus is that they want to keep people from voting because when you have an autocracy, who needs a democracy? Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Biden administration is restoring California's authority to set its own tailpipe pollution standards for cars, reversing a Trump administration policy and likely ushering in stricter emission standards for new passenger vehicles nationwide. A waiver approved Wednesday by the EPA allows California to set tough emission rules for cars and SUVs and impose mandates for so-called zero-emission vehicles that do not contribute to global warming. At least 15 states and the District of Columbia have signed on to California's vehicle standards, which are stricter than federal rules and designed to address the state's severe air pollution problems. According to the American Lung Association, 7 of the 10 U.S. cities with worst ozone pollution are in California, along with 6 of the 10 most polluted cities measured by year-round particle pollution. Former President Donald Trump's 2019 decision to revoke California's authority to set its own limits on auto emissions was one of his most high-profile actions to roll back environmental rules he considered overly burdensome on business. Regulation of vehicle emissions is central to combating climate change. President Joe Biden has made slowing climate change a top priority of his administration and has pledged to cut greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Transportation is the single largest source of planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S., making up 29% of all emissions. Well, let us now get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You were listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Christopher Intagliata. Chimpanzees can make tools, they display emotions, and they can outfox humans at certain memory games. But chimps also resemble us in another way. They use medicine. They're known to eat tough leaves and bitter plants to purge parasites from their guts. Now researchers have observed chimps applying a never-before-seen type of treatment. They snatch up flying insects and apply them to their wounds. You can see this happening in a video they filmed at Luango National Park in Central Africa.
Susie is sitting up, and then she's catching something from underneath a bush. She's putting it between her lips. She seems to press it, and then she's grabbing the foot of her son with a wound, and then she is applying the insect onto that wound.
Simona Pica is a cognitive biologist at the University of Osnabrück in Germany, part of the team that studies these chimps. She says it's possible the insects have antibacterial or soothing qualities, but this could also be a cultural practice with no medical benefit at all.
Maybe an individual just found out that it's intriguing, then I get a lot of attention, others come, maybe then I get some grooming. And so it just resulted into a social behavior.
After all, Pica points out that humans perform plenty of rituals with no obvious function. Her team reported their findings in the journal Current Biology. And they write that this could be an example of what's called pro-social behavior.
They help each other, and it's not just the mother helping her offspring, and it's not somebody helping somebody to increase their genetic benefits, but it's also individuals who are not related with each other.
As for the insects, the team has not yet identified any remains.
Because it's probably very, very tiny pieces, and we are primatologists, but now we talk to entomologists. And now we have an idea of how to find even smallest remains. And then there are also techniques to then identify the species.
If they do, they'll be able to learn more about what function this practice might have, if any. And perhaps we humans will be able to learn some medicinal tricks from our primate cousins. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60 Second Science, I'm Christopher Intagliata.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
As the days get longer and the weather warms, people of all ages will start to spring into action. Spring is a great time to breathe fresh air, stretch your arms and legs, and get physically active outdoors. Lack of physical activity contributes to obesity, heart disease, stroke, and other chronic health conditions. Fortunately, many communities are making it easier and safer to be physically active. Neighborhoods across the country are working together to create more public spaces for walking, running, biking, and other physical activities. Adults should get at least 150 minutes of physical activity each week, and children should get 60 minutes a day. If you find it hard to walk to a local recreation center, park, or playground, learn how to make your neighborhood a place that makes healthy living easier. Visit makinghealtheasier.org for information about ways communities can change to get more people outside and moving.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. From a very young age, we're encouraged to eat fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, many Americans are not getting the message. Dr. Seung-Hee Lee Kwan is with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. She's joining us today to discuss the importance of eating enough fruits and vegetables. Welcome to the show, Seung-Hee.
Thank you for having me.
Seung-Hee, what is the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
The federal guidelines recommend that adults consume at least 1.5 cups to 2 cups of fruit and 2 to 3 cups of vegetables each day. This is for adults who get less than 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Adults who are more physically active need more calories and thus should be eating more fruits and vegetables. 1 cup is about 12 strawberries or 1 large tomato.
How many people consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
We found that very few adults are getting enough fruits and vegetables. Just 12% are eating the recommended amount of fruits, and less than 1 in 10 eat enough vegetables. And consumption is lower among men, young adults, and adults living in poverty.
Why is eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables so important?
Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help with 3 things. 1, it can reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and deaths, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and even obesity. It can also add important nutrients that are commonly missing in Americans' diet. And it can help with weight management if adults consume fruits and vegetables instead of other calorie-dense foods.
How can we meet the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables?
Try to fill half of your plate with fruits or vegetables at each meal or every eating occasion. Making fruits and vegetables the focal point of your meal will help you meet your recommendations. For example, recent studies have shown that adults get most of their fruit during breakfast and snacks. So you can try adding berries to your morning oatmeal or grab a piece of fresh fruit as an afternoon snack. For vegetables, most adults eat them at dinner, so try adding more into your lunch by adding a side salad or packing a snack of baby carrots or grape tomatoes.
Are canned or frozen products just as good as fresh?
All forms of fruits and vegetables count towards meeting the recommendations. For the most health benefits, make sure that the fruits and vegetables you consume have limited amount of salt, butter, sugar, or creamy sauces. When selecting canned fruits, choose the ones with lowest sugars. And for canned or frozen vegetables, choose those lower in sodium.
Where can listeners get more information about eating a healthy diet?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/nutrition or choosemyplate.gov.
Thanks, Seung-Hee. I've been talking today with Seung-hee Lee Kwon about the importance of eating a healthy diet. Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and death and add important nutrients to your diet. Make sure you're eating enough. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Kathleen Dooling for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage. Because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
When Europeans first made contact with Native American tribes, they were surprised at the differences between the roles of women in their cultures and the indigenous cultures of America. For example, a Dutch minister wrote in 1644 about his contact with the Mohawks. The women are obliged to prepare the land, to mow, to plant, and to do everything. The men do nothing except hunting, fishing, and going to war against their enemies. Although it is difficult to generalize because of the great diversity among tribes, Native women contributed to the good of the community by farming, gathering food, and raising children. Some tribes were matrilineal, meaning that membership in one of the tribe's clans was determined through the woman's family. This was the case for the nations of the Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois Confederacy of the northeastern region. In some tribes, women played an important political role, with Haudenosaunee women appointing chiefs and removing them from office if necessary. This has been 60 Second Civics, a podcast of the Center for Civic Education. I'm Mark Gage.
Are you, am I, are we putting democracy at risk? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. According to a recent Washington Post poll, 70% of Republicans believe that the 2020 presidential election was illegitimate. Wow. 70% of the people who identify with one of the two major political parties in America subscribe to a falsehood, a lie? How is this possible? Here's one explanation. 82% of Fox News viewers believe the election was stolen. 82%. For viewers of the ultra-far-right news distributors, it's closer to 100%. Many media analysts believe that those numbers result from people living in news silos, a phenomenon that happens among people of different political persuasions and personal beliefs. News silos. Many viewers and listeners turning to media that reinforces their existing opinions and ideas. Those media outlets then deliver content that over and over again reinforces those ideas. This phenomenon is dangerous. In order for facts to prevail over prevarications, we as a nation depend on ourselves, the body politic, to participate collectively in what we call a free marketplace of ideas. But as that marketplace becomes more like a series of company-owned stores, as news silos become more the norm, democracy increasingly is put at grave risk. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1941. New Yorkers woke up to find a foot of snow blanketing their city. Nearly 1 million New Yorkers also discovered their usual routine was going to be disrupted. At 5 a.m., the Transport Workers Union had walked off the job, calling a strike against the Fifth Avenue Coach and New York City omnibus companies. The bus drivers' demands included a pay increase and an 8-hour workday. Many of the company's 3,500 employees were forced to work 60 hours or more a week. Michael Quill, the TWU president, led the strike. Quill was an Irish immigrant known for his energetic union leadership. the bus companies tried to turn public opinion against the strikers. They took out ads in the New York newspapers reading, "If you had to walk to work today, blame the Transit Workers Union." Other ads attempted to stir up anger by calling the union a communist-dominated, Moscow-directed outfit. Despite these tactics, thousands of other union workers across the city joined the bus drivers on the picket lines. Perhaps the most iconic moment of the strike came on St. Patrick's Day. The union had been denied a permit to join the city's annual parade. Undeterred, hundreds of union members donned TWU armbands and jaunty bus driver caps and marched anyway. The strike lasted for 12 days. Mayor LaGuardia sided with the company and urged the union to settle the strike. The union agreed to bring their negotiations to the New York State Mediation Board, where they won some ground on their demands, including a 9-hour workday.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on the Twitters at Labor History in 2.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States, where it is currently 30 degrees Fahrenheit under, well, now the fog is lifting somewhat, and but it's a bit chilly, as I just mentioned, at 30 degrees. So as the fog lifts, we'll have cloudy skies early, then just partly cloudy this afternoon with highs near 60, winds light and variable, and then some clouds this evening will give mainly to clear skies overnight with lows around 30, winds light and variable. Generally sunny tomorrow despite a few afternoon clouds with highs at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh my, winds light and variable. Confirmed cases of coronavirus in Jackson County in the southern part of Oregon. We're going to take off our masks and we continue to have more infections. I'm not doing it. Two things. I'm not taking off my mask and I'm not going to get an infection. Please. We have increased our confirmed cases, which stands at 422,078. And our deceased have increased by a couple, I believe. Yes, a couple. And now stands at 494 dead. Not enough, apparently. Okay, well, pollen is still rated as none outside the window here in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the Rogue River Valley region is good at 26 parts per million, and the daytime UV index is moderate at level 3. Barometric pressure is holding steady at 30.32 inches. Visibility is at about 1/2 mile, and relative humidity is at 89%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that crowdsources from around the world. London is 60 degrees and sunny. Paris is 62 and sunny. Rome is 60 degrees and fair. Kyiv is 26 degrees and fair. Kabul is 45 and partly cloudy. Hong Kong is 63 and clear. Tokyo is 47 degrees and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 65 and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 53 and sunny. And New York is 39 degrees Fahrenheit and fair. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Raphael Satter and James Pearson of Reuters brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. The Ukrainian government is preparing for the potential need to move its data and servers abroad if Russia's invading forces push deeper into the country, a senior cybersecurity official told Reuters yesterday, Wednesday. Viktor Zora, the deputy chief of Ukraine's State Service of Special Communications and Information Protection, emphasized his department was planning for a contingency, but that it is being considered at all suggests Ukrainians want to be ready for any Russian threat to seize sensitive government documents. We are preparing the ground, Zora said. Plan A was to protect IT infrastructure within Ukraine. Removing it to another country would only be a plan B or C. The move could only happen after regulatory changes approved by Ukrainian lawmakers, Zora said. Government officials have already been shipping equipment and backups to more secure areas of Ukraine beyond the reach of Russian forces. Last month, Zora told Politico there were plans to move critical data out of the capital Kyiv should it be threatened, but preparations for potentially moving data abroad go a step further.
Je te donne, c'est mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Reuters staff bring us this final amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Metro Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. More than 1 million children have fled Ukraine to neighboring countries in the less than 2 weeks since Russia started its invasion of Ukraine, UNICEF said yesterday, Wednesday. At least 37 children had been killed and 50 injured, but that was before the maternity ward or maternity and Children's Hospital was bombed yesterday. Russell said, and they do mention this, she was horrified by the unreported attack, and Russell being the executive director, Catherine Russell of UNICEF said. The attack on the Children's Hospital in Mariupol, where officials said a Russian airstrike buried patients under rubble despite an agreed ceasefire. The bombing, which Ukraine President Zelensky called an atrocity, took place despite an agreed ceasefire to enable thousands of civilians trapped in the city to escape. A ceasefire zone is a free fire zone to that guy, Putin, so let's keep that in mind. Mariupol City Council said the hospital has been hit several times by an airstrike, causing colossal destruction, and Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russian forces did not fire on civilian targets, but they were dead, and we've seen the photographs, and they're not retouched, okay? Let's make that clear. More than 2 million people have fled Ukraine since Russian President Putin ordered the invasion on the 24th of February. Moscow calls its action a special military operation to disarm its neighbor and dislodge leaders it calls neo-Nazis, Jewish people. Most of those who fled are women and children, as able-bodied men have been ordered by the Kyiv government to stay home to fight. The war has swiftly cast Russia into economic isolation, as well as drawing almost universal international condemnation. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up tomorrow for Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook at Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.